So the exception handling will have the activities like try catch. So this try catch, we will be having try block and we need to add one catch block. And we have the final leave block by default. And we have the validation error because here no catch block is defined. At least one catch block needs to be defined. And let us do one thing. Let us add one. See here we have different types of exceptions, right? Argument exception, input output exception, null reference exception, invalid operation, and we can even browse for more as well. We can search for business rule exception. Here it is. We can select it. And now the validation is gone because at least we need to have one catch block for the try catch. And you can add another catch block also. So it's up to us. Okay, let me delete this for now, for time being. Sorry. Let me delete the catch block. We can even delete the catch blocks also. Right click. So the catch block will be deleted. So here, let us write a log message. Try block. Business exception. Finally. So let us assume this is a happy flow path. Happy flow path we call generally in case if we are not getting any exceptions or negative things. Okay. And let us run this. So here it is executing try block and also finally block, and the catch block is not getting executed. So let us do one thing. So based on some validations, in case if you want to do, so probably we will be doing that in process as part of our process, but I'm just showing you like how we can use the throw activity. New space, business rule exception, sample exception. So this is the syntax we will be using for throw. And here, what we will do is we'll just write exception dot message also. So if we run this flow, so we got the sample exception, right? So we are using a throw block to throw an exception, and it is going to business exception catch block, and it is writing sample exception, and the finally block is executed. So in case if we are getting an exception, then catch block is executing, and the finally block also getting executed. Let us do one thing. Let us write this as system exception. And what we have done is here we defined a business rule exception catch block. We don't have any system catch block. Let us run the file. See, try block is got executed and the catch block is not executed, right? And the finally block also not executed. Can anyone tell the reason?
Because in catch block we are not using the system exception, right? We are basically handling the business rule exception. That's why basically we are getting that error.
Sorry.
So basically in catch block we are not basically using the system exception, right? We basically
Hmm.
use business rule exception.
Yes.
So that's why we are getting the
Okay.
error.
Let us do one thing. Let me put this as a business exception. Okay. So like this. I'll add a catch block of system exception. So what will happen now? See here, we are throwing a business rule exception type, but we have a system exception catch block. So what will happen?
I think both will run. Throw also and catch also.
Throw
Hmm.
also and
Correct. Yeah.
Catch block also will work and throw block will also
why?
work.
Why? Because when I'm throwing a system exception, when I have a business rule exception catch block, it is not executing the catch block. But when I am throwing a business rule exception and I don't have a business rule catch block, I have a system catch block. Why?
So the parent class maybe because it's a pair.
Sorry.
The business rule exception is a parent. No, system exception is a parent of business rule exception. Maybe.
Yeah, we can consider in that way also. But uh, let us put the same in a different way. System exception will consider all the exceptions, and we can say all the exceptions, whatever we have, are a subset of the system exceptions. So, can we give a statement that we should have a system exception catch block at least? You can
Hmm.
have your business rule exception catch blocks. Let us do one thing. You can have your business rule exception catch blocks. You can have your application catch blocks, whatever it might be. But along, irrespective whether you have other catch blocks or not, we should have a system catch block. The reason is you never know what type of exceptions we may encounter, right? Some unhandled exceptions or something or other, whatever might be the type, and everything will be handled under the system exception catch block. See here, we define the system exception on the top, and then we define the business rule exception. Though this exception will be considered under both the catch blocks, but it will go to the exact match or the most specific common match. Here it is business rule exception. So it will go in that way. Okay.
Okay. So
Agree,
it means
guys?
basically, yeah. So it means basically, uh, system exception is a basically mandatory exception to handle any exception, like whether it is handle exception or exception, or planned exception or unplanned exception. That I think we can
Yes.
say, right?
System exception catch block will handle any type of exception.
Mhm. Path, just one more doubt. So basically, in first scenario, let's say if we get any exception, okay, in the try block, and we don't basically use catch block, right? So in that case, basically only try and finally basically get executed, right? That you
See,
showed, right?
when you are having try block, right, you should
Huh?
have a catch block. Without defining a catch block, you cannot use the try catch because it will throw an exception.
Okay, okay.
So it will throw an validation. See, catch are finally expected for the try catch activity.
Try catch.
Finally, you have,
Mhm.
but the catch is not there, right? So as soon
Mhm.
as I define a catch block, the validation was gone.
Mm.
Okay. So you need to have at least one catch block. Without that, you cannot define your, you cannot use your try catch. And what I suggest is the catch block also, you should have, you should consider putting system exception catch block that as a base catch block. And you can have
Mm.
multiple type of catch blocks as well. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So let us take rethrow. You cannot use it here. So if you see right, it will not have any input or output parameters. See, must be the child of a catch handler. So which means like it should be only in the catch block. So if you see the previous execution, right? Try block is got executed, business rule exception got executed, finally got executed. And what I want to do is after printing this log message, I don't want the finally block to be executed. If I put here, right, it will throw the same exception out again. See, I'm getting a runtime execution error. See, right? It is saying the business rule exception type, and the exception message is this. It is throwing business rule exception is received. Okay, we got into the catch block, and then it got an exception, which means like this rethrow is throwing the catched exception. Whatever the exception is raised in the try block is catched here, and it was handled here. And again, this activity will be throwing the same exception again. Okay,
Okay.
clear?
So basically, what is the use of rethrow here?
I see. I'm working with some applications. Okay,
Mm.
like where it is coming up a pop-up and I'm working on it. In case if any error occurred or it is successful, in such scenarios, right, I may need to close that pop-up. In successful, right, automatically the pop-up will be closed. But in case of failure, right, I may need to close the pop-up and then I should not continue with the next step of set of executions, right? So in that case, I'll do all the automation here in the catch block. I'll just use a closing of the pop-up if it is available, and then I will use a rethrow so that the next set of activities will not execute for that particular transaction.
Okay.
Got it? In case of exception, right, you want to perform
Mm.
some actions. So
Correct.
that we will be performing here. And then I don't want to perform any other actions, whatever is other than those in terms of exception. So in that case, we will use the rethrow. Got it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So see, let me first disable this activity. First, I don't want to have this rethrow. First, let me come here. I'll just execute this as a run file. So we got an exception. It directly went into the catch block and the finally block also got executed. The reason is we handled the exception. And let us suppose we are not handling the exception. Let us suppose this is the way. This will be considered as an unhandled exception. The rethrow will be considered as the unhandled exception. So let us run the file. So it will be coming up with a pop-up and all these details we can see. Okay. So let us suppose if I am working on a testing of a project, I'm testing a project which I developed and the execution will take a lot of time. Okay. How it will be like in case if I run with the run option And in case if any exception occurred, right? So it will just come up with this pop-up. And I was not sure what actually happening, right? So let me do one thing. Mm, okay, I'll show in detail, obviously going further. So first let us do one thing. Let us click on this debug file. So what it will do is, see, as soon as the error occurred, right, it will just pause at that particular place and it will give an option whether to continue. In case if I click on continue, right, it will directly go to the catch block and step into and step over. This we will see later. And we can even ask for a retry or we can ignore that as well. We can ignore this. In case if we ignore, right, it will directly go to the finally block. Let us do one thing. Click on ignore. And then I need to click on continue. So I come here, right? Try block and directly finally block. The exception catch block is not executed. Let us debug the file and we got the error. Click on continue. It came to the catch block. Click on continue. Click on continue. So this is how the execution, step-by-step execution can happen from the place where we encountered an exception. Let us suppose forget about all those, like forget about these errors and all, and I want to have from one particular point. So I can just put the breakpoint here, okay, and I can go with debug file. It will come to this breakpoint and it will stop execution. So we can use this step into, step over, step out to do that. So step into is like to go to this activity and then to this activity. If I click on step over, right, it will automatically execute whatever we have inside of all these. See, it directly came to throw, right? When I clicked on step over, let us stop this. Let us debug the file. If I click on step into, right, it will go to the log message and then it will come to the throw. Now we got there. In case, yeah, let us go to, we have a catch block, right? Let us retry. It will retry the same activity again. Restart, it will go to the first activity again. See here, it came to this again. So it will be starting your entire execution. So we have multiple options to do in different ways. If I click on step over, right, like it will directly come to this because we are having an exception, or else like it will directly execute the sequence automatically and it will come out. Let's click on step over. Let us ignore, continue. So this is how, if you see, right, it didn't went to the catch block because we asked the robot to ignore the text.
Path, your voice is not audible.
Is it audible now?
Hello. Very, very low.
Is it clear now?
Ha. Now it's clear.
So these are the different options we have in debug. And not only this, let us say I have a variable created. Just debug this file. See, let us suppose, see, I cannot show you directly right away now, but I can show you somewhere in our real-time projects going further. How actually the debugging will help us to work on the different things and like how we can leverage the advantage of the debugging. So let us suppose you are getting an error at particular activity, okay, and because in project, right, like we will be using a lot of variables and arguments and all this stuff, right? Correct. So it will be throwing an error, but you will think that like no, everything is correct as per my knowledge. And now we want to see what value actually the variable is holding. So here I have a variable, right? So you can go to the locals panel. So, sorry, sorry, watch panel. Hmm, is that okay? So we can go to the immediate panel. We can just type variable. Got some error. Just go to the step into and let us try to see that value now. Yeah, because it is inside of this. So we got the value. So we can view the values in the runtime. Okay. And we can, let me do one thing. After this log message, right? I'll use a message box and I'll try to print that variable here. Okay. Let us go for a debug. Step into, and here, if you see, right, it is a sample var, right? And we can even check those that value also, sample var. And now what I want to do is I want to do modified, and let us go to the step into. See here, we can even update the variable values. See, let us suppose your expectation is to the variable should hold some value, let us suppose 10. Okay, and in the runtime you identified that there is an error happening, and you just spied like tried to check the value in the immediate panel. What is the value exactly we have? And it is, if it is 6, so you'll consider that and you'll just make a note of it, and you already executed almost 50% of your process. So you want to continue with your testing for the rest of the process, right? So in that case, we'll directly update the variable value here in the immediate panel, and we will execute it. Here guys, we can even check the values and update the variable values in the debug mode from immediate panel. Clear guys? Or
Yeah, Parth.
see,
Basically, many.
we have still we have a couple of things like a slow step, which will like reduce the speed of your execution, and highlight elements when you are dealing with UI elements, right? This will helpful. Let me see if I have some UI automation which I can showcase you right now. I have something here. Mm, I don't have something to show you, but for sure we will run in debug mode when we are working on the project. Okay. So any queries, guys? So we are left with the project organization, like invoke workflow files, invoke code, invoke methods, and also RE framework. And once we're done with them, then we are good to go for the projects.
And document understanding is also, I think we missed that, right? Parth.
Document understanding is not part of the curriculum, Akash, but it is part of your real-time projects. So
Okay.
I said like we will be covering in the implementation, and I'll
Mhm.
share you resources like from where you can learn more about the document understanding.
Okay.
Okay, then for tomorrow, right? I'll send out the invite today itself, evening itself. Just yesterday I thought of like sending it out, but I forgot to do that. So I'll send it now today itself. And from day after tomorrow, right? And when we are starting with